Okay,
Huh?
sige, sige.
Sige, I think we are now live. Okay, this podcast is sponsored by Bix Recovery Supplement. After a long bicycle ride, that's usually not the end of my day. I'm still a husband, a dad, and I've got work, regular work. So, recovery is super important to me. So, I take Bix Recovery Supplement as part of my recovery routine. It was recommended to me by my friend Terrence Go, who's an ultra endurance trail runner. So, after heavy sessions, we both take Bix Recovery Supplement. You can order yours now at instagram.com/focus recovery ph. Thank you, Bix Recovery Supplement via Focus Recovery PH for sponsoring the podcast. And over the years, 032 Conversations has had over 100 interviews. So I've been blessed to be able to talk to so many interesting people. You can check out the interviews in the archives at 032.com. So, welcome to the live stream of 032 Conversations. Today, I have the pleasure of talking to Chai Fonacier. Chai is an
Hello.
act. Hello, Chai. Chai is an actor,
Sorry.
writer, and songwriter. She likes stories, and according to her bio, she's horrible at math and science anyway. So, when not doing those things, she cooks up stuff in her small kitchen, which she started to do after she overdosed on kitchen nightmares and cooking videos on YouTube in 2018. So her own renditions have luckily turned out to be, to a degree, pleasantly edible and have not caused anyone any sort of digestive trouble. She is also owned by a feisty feline called Mimong, who has a better looking IG feed than her own. And yeah, hi Chai, how are you?
Hi, all good. We have just come out of the huge storm that passed through Luzon here. News is not very good about it, so yun. But I'm just thankful to have stayed safe through it. I'm expecting that people are gonna need the rest of our help in the next coming days. So yeah, that's it. That's what's been keeping us kind of on our toes for today, really.
Yeah, because I was gonna ask you. I was kind of like half expecting, if something was happening, this to be canceled. Okay, you never know, ba? So you guys are fine.
Right. Actually, well, yeah, I was kind of afraid that we might not push through tonight because when it rains and then the internet's really bad as usual. But surprisingly,
Malagi.
we're kind of okay. Uh, yeah, at least na nabalik na ang kuryente kay ganina nawala man siya ganina buntag, so we're like, oh no, we should really prep
Yeah, so like
our emergency stuff.
that's what I was thinking. Like I was like, oh, there's so many things that can happen once there's a typhoon. Like you are, even if nothing happens to you physically in your area, but like
Mm-mm.
there's a lot of like potential. Sani. You mentioned you're gonna go drink. Like you're gonna get some alcohol. Like I actually usually I don't drink, and then I got myself a beer na lang.
Mao ni siya nahitabo, no? Wala na lang ko nakainom tonight kay niinuman ko gabi. Bati! Maya! But sige lang.
Yeah, like I don't I don't really drink that often at all, honestly. No.
I'm sorry. Wait, are we naputol pa ba ta? Oh, okay. Okay ba
Yeah,
data? All
putol-putol
right.
gamay. Pero
Please.
okay pa, okay pa. Like I think
Okay,
the
internet
connection
please
is just a little
cooperate.
bit on and off. Like eh? Kanang
Yeah. Mm-mm.
you know what I found funny? When you were in Cebu ba?
Mm-mm.
I don't think we ever crossed paths. Like kanang, di ba you had like that band Womb?
Yeah. Um I also had another band before that, but this was like way way before. We played parang folk rock stuff, and I think we played in the same gigs before. We just really didn't interact ang kaayo to nga time. And then Womb happened. Um yeah, yun. So and then that was just life happened. So that's I guess that's gone now. I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, my cat
When you're what's
my
with the cat?
my cat's on the table. Ayun. Nimong out. Song, I'm having a conversation with somebody. Out, 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 out. Thank you. Okay, sige, padayon.
You know what? Don't worry about it. Kay almost in every live stream nako is my kids walk in. Yeah, I don't lock the door or anything, and they ask for something. Kanang change the channel or whatever. Kaya na ba? I'm like,
Oh,
ano gina? I mean, this is what it is now. This is the reality of life.
new normal. We see the little things that are happening at home, and everybody sees your cat, and then everybody sees your kids, and you get interrupted, and they see you flustered and everything. So it's just weird that we're all apart, but we're all seeing the insides of each other's houses. And it's very strange. It's been a very strange year, actually.
Yeah, kadang you've been having a lot of like these Zoom meetings, ana?
Not a lot, pero what's been happening is, for example, if I get hired for let's say a series or a little project, it's shoot from home. I'm acting in front of my phone, really, and then they just record the Zoom meeting. They record my performance interacting with another person who is in the call. It's very strange like that. I'm gonna have another project soon, I think in the next month. And then ang mahitabo is I'm gonna shoot myself na here, hilang sa balay, and we're gonna use my house. I think the other actors are gonna do the same thing too. We're all gonna shoot from home. I don't, and we have to figure out like how to which parts of the house to use, what kind of angles to use. And then I'm mostly just doing that on my own inside my room, really, without any physical presence. Sa lain tao bitaw. It's very strange because the exchange of energy is usually different when you're acting with somebody else. Um, where you have, no, you're physically in the same space. It's also very strange. It's kind of a strange process also to do that over the internet, like over a Zoom meeting where you see each other just for the first time and you haven't really met each other personally just yet, and then you're already in this scene. You're already doing the scene on this on the script. The first time that happened to me was very strange. We had to and it so happened now our characters were kind of drunk na pod. So eventually in the middle of the take we kind of couldn't get the right rhythm. So we did end up actually going out and getting actual drinks while doing the Ixina, which eventually we were able to um get now, because lagi it's so weird to see each other for the first time, and then all of a sudden we're like, hey, let's do the scene, and
Yeah, I
siya. So
don't get it. I don't understand. So you're
yeah.
doing it like kind of like really shooting it. This is not like an audition or anything. Like this is the
No, like for
show.
example, yeah, for example, kita, ikaw akong kaiksin
Mm.
na, for example. And then somebody else is inside the room and recording this interaction. But it's just that we're performing it like now. Let's say you have a script there, I have a script here, and we're nag-eksena kita, except that it's on a Zoom call. It's so weird. And somebody's recording that call, and they're going to edit that recorded call into the story that uh, they want to make, that kind of thing. So strange ang
I
experience.
I'm sure. Like so before when I used to do these interviews, pre-COVID, pre-lockdown,
Uh-uh. Uh-uh.
you really book a person, you set
Yeah.
usually they go to my office and yeah, we'd sit
Mm.
down and then, you know, kanang I give them a coffee pa, ano ba, like
Yeah.
there is physical interaction
Right.
and I found in fact that like the unrecorded portion in many cases
Mm-mm.
is very important because that's when me as an interviewer I need to put the interviewee at ease, right?
Mm-mm.
Like that's
Yeah.
me kanang trying to make them kanang comfortable, so by the time I press record murag diretso
Okay
na,
na.
no?
Oo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Yes.
you're totally right about that rhythm, like when you have a conversation, I mean, mono na, like there's a rhythm, but like with the Zoom or online, even if there's like half a second lag or 0.01 second lag, it's a weird experience doing it. No, and I
Yeah,
can't imagine doing a scene. I mean, I
yeah,
can't imagine
actually.
doing a scene. Period.
And it's weird because speaking of the lags ba, and the, because in real life conversations, when, except especially when you're um when you're excited about the things you're talking about, or you're very present na in the moment. Sometimes, kind of interrupt each other, and you overlap,
Mm,
and you go, you're in agreement or you're in disagreement, depending. But you can't really do that in Zoom calls, or interactions like online interactions like this, because you kind of have to wait until that person finishes, and then you're not sure if that's the right time to interrupt, and then you sometimes inadvertently interrupt another person, and then you start being afraid of, oh my god, was I rude, was that okay, did that person think I was rude for interrupting that person, when as a matter of fact it might just be really the connection. I don't know, the internet connection, literally. And also the way we form this interpersonal connection, that's a very strange process when you do it um online. So kung eksena pa pod, with the shoots that we've done so far, kana lisod pud siya, because just like dili nimo matansya ang online conversations, maglisod pud kag tansya sa inyong energy kung online siya. You don't know when you're kat, maglibog mo sa mga cues, o niya murag mahadlok mo og kanang marsyag sakyanan nga kagang-kagang ba, murag mo mag so when we were doing this, like, one whole scene, it was 10 minutes long. We didn't have a choice. Like, it was this one whole Zoom call. So the entire performance is like 10 minutes long. We had to do it over and over again for in the span of within 4 hours. Nagbalik-balik me, and then mag-notes na po, and then balik-balik, and then see which unsay murag mga technical problems we had to fix. So yeah, mura siya.
yeah,
Weird
that's
kayo
great.
siya.
Like super. Like I've been on. I've done this kind of these interviews, and then sometimes I'll even like raise my hand, kanang just to like kanang hey I have something to say. No, but I wanted to make sure that we got to talk about like okay. So I talked to a lot of like I've talked to some like filmmakers and like I talked
Mm-mm.
to like of course lang Ara, lang
Yeah.
Christian, Anna, and then like in fact I was able to talk to Christian before he went to Manila when before they moved there.
Mm-mm.
No, this was a couple of years ago I think,
Mm-mm.
and then and I was able to catch Ara also one time when she was here in Cebu, and and then I asked them. Oh, so they were moving to Manila, and I always wonder about because you're so like okay fine you were in the music scene before, right? And
Mm-mm.
I read somewhere, I heard somewhere, I do some research that there was a time where you were considering being a musician for a living. Is that true or?
Mura siya mas, it was more like mas damgo siya than kuan. It was more like um damgo siya, instead of like, this is really what I'm gonna do. It was like a remnants of whatever it was that I thought I was gonna be, when I was in college. I said, okay, I'm by hook or by crook, I'm really going to perform. And the at that time I thought it was going to be music. It's not totally gone out of my life right now. It's just that I'm focusing on something else. But um, I really didn't expect that I would be working as an actor now professionally. Because I always thought na, okay, one day magmusician jud ko. I mean, sure, I will have a day job, but I will be a musician. Kada ina na mga klase nga mga damgo-damgo ba. But what brought me here was films, actually. I think
Yeah, because
similar may og kwan ni Ara. Kay si Ara was also in the music scene before, around the same time that I was. And then when she started exploring film, that was also around the same time that I got um, the first few roles in film that I've ever had. Among them was sa katong iyang film nga Operation Prutas, and then eventually Miss Bulalacao. So
Yeah, I really liked Operation Prutas, by the way.
that was a really
I
fun shoot.
rewatched it. I rewatched it again today. No,
Uh,
unfortunately, I have not seen Miss Bulalacao. Okay, it's
uh,
not, it's not readily available
uh,
online. That as far as I know, is it?
Naa siya sa yeah, I'm not I haven't checked how to watch it just yet, but it's part of Pista ng Pelikulang Pilipino. They're screening it this year. I'll send you a link later. It's online, but I think kinahanglan siya kanang murag you have to pay like a ticket and then you can see all the films.
Mm,
There's over 140 films dito karon for this film festival. They well, like everything else, it's now online because of the pandemic. But it started. This film festival started 20, if I'm not mistaken, 2017. 2017 man siguro. It's been an annual thing na ever since. And then now it's online and they're screening Bulalakaw apparently. So basig ganahan mo manglantaw mga friends nga naminaw din ha. It's a
yeah,
really
send
good
me the
film
link.
actually. Yeah, sige
I'll put
sige.
it up on the show notes when we post the podcast. Yeah, the
Okay,
reason
sige
why I
sige.
asked about like becoming a musician, okay, I remember back then when we were still when me and my band were still around, and then
Mm,
there were some peripheral talks of like kanang same as you, but like, oh, this would be so cool to do it for a living, and then
yeah.
it was, and then there was always a conversation about moving to Manila,
Mm-mm.
and then of course like most Cebuanos, probably, I mean, I think you can agree, no, you've lived here long enough. You don't really want to move up there, and the move is always, I mean, it's a you could argue it's necessary, especially like music or kana like being an actor, actress. No, is that still? Do you think that's still the case?
Um, right, feeling yun ako, no? Feeling nako, it's a huge dream, I think, of any artist to not have to leave their hometowns or the towns where they had their cultural awakenings, ba kumbaga, their creative awakenings, kumbaga. It's just unfortunate nga mulagi everything is centered in Metro Manila, and um I'm gonna be forced to not uh pursue the stuff that I really love to do, that I know that I'm good at if I stayed at home. No, I think to some degree, I wouldn't use the word necessary. Um, saan man ako siya describe? Tinuoray lang no ang first nga word nga musud sa akong utok no kay samok. Samok
Mm,
siya. More siya samok siya nga kinahanglan patamang we all have to go through this sort of diaspora just to be able to contribute, or I don't know what's the word, just to be able to show or pursue what it is that we know we're good at, what we all love doing, and it's very important, Manggod, as artists from coming from where we are, but from Central Visayas, also from any other region outside of Metro Manila. Importante Manggod for artists to be able to pursue their art because it's beneficial kaayo siya for the general nga introspection nato as a unit, as a regional nga people ba. Art is also introspection, not just for the individual, but kita as a whole. We get to figure out who we are through the art that we put out and the art that we do. And the more that we get to know ourselves through that, like I always say, it's like your cultural ID. So it helps us introduce ourselves better to our neighbors, and it makes us more curious about what our neighbors also have to share in terms of their stories, in terms of their lives, in terms of their culture and their identity, and that makes and that kind of helps to bridge the gaps that we have, and it eventually I'm hopeful here eventually it contributes to this kanitang bridging the cultural gaps that we have regarding the problem of Filipino identity, etc. We're so diverse, and we want to homogenize everything. When as a matter of fact, we can't homogenize everything. Our language, the number of languages alone that we have over 180 if you check the language map. Kana pa lang daan daghan na jud kayo. So murag I think going back, it's um samok siya that we have to come here pa. But what I'm hopeful about is that um because artists are aware of that pagkasamok niya, there's over the years nagka-strong ang push sa mga regional artists to have access to be able to tell their stories, nga makakuha og workshops, ma-strengthen ang ilang ang storytelling nga culture sa mga regions, like for example in film, uh, workshops nga na they put up their own film festivals, like Nabunturan in Compostela Valley has its own film festival, which is really wonderful. And that's like a really small that's like a really really
Mm.
small town, and they have their own film festival. It's amazing. Sa music, sa music nato, di ba? Sa music nato sa Cebu, it has been doing okay in the last decade or so, and it's I think that's very important. We also tell our stories through music, di ba? So muna siya kung
Me, I
feeling
can
ana.
I can tell I can tell you from like somebody who lives here. Here's I wanted to get to this part like further down the interview and that,
Uh,
but like here's my problem, no? So like my problem with like local film in general is
mm-mm,
that uh I mean like me, I can barely speak Bisaya, much less
mm-mm,
Tagalog, no?
mm-mm.
So if mutanaw ko og, like Tagalog nga film, it's really really difficult for me,
Yeah.
no? So like and then also, you can probably tell I'm probably not the demographic generally speaking, 'di ba?
Uh,
So so whenever I see a Cebuano film, like malingaw gid ko. Like it's
uh,
actually a really fun experience like kanang like katong and then it was really really fun in particular when it's a Cebuano film that not even Cebuano film that does well like katong patay na si Jesus.
mm-mm, mm-mm.
I remember watching it, and then of course
Yeah.
lingaw kay me kay
Uh,
you can really relate to the whole thing because it's really like a portrait of Cebu, no? Or of a Bisaya culture basically. And so lingaw kay me, so I watched it with my wife and lingaw kay me. And then I remember having lunch with my mom. And then my mom goes, "Uy, ingon si Diana, like her friend ba? Kana, uy, mutanaw daw ta ani, patay na si Jesus." I'm like, oh, when I heard it na from my mom, I was like, oh wow, it must be doing really
mm.
well. Once it reaches like
Yeah.
kana ana ka wide nga spread ba. Then I was like, wow, like I mean, it was really nice to see something like that and even just to see representation
Mm,
in that sense from on the big screen like in a movie theater, diba? uh
mm-mm,
so that's what I really appreciated, but then but also my personal problem is I hear there's a lot of good Filipino film, but because of kanang just growing up and kanang not really being motivated to watch it, I just haven't watched any any Filipino films like regardless of like if it's made in Manila or Cebu or if it's Tagalog or
mm-mm.
Bisaya, no. uh so that's like a little problem that I have. I wish I could get into it. Like I've seen a few, but like
Uh,
you know like kanang it's I watch it because my wife likes to watch it, something with John Lloyd or like it's like a super romantic, that super
uh,
romance thing. But I was wondering if there are films that you would suggest that
na
hopefully it's on
naabaya
Netflix.
actually. Naabaya actually. Ang problema man gud aning mga like the at least what I consider to be the better Filipino films that we have is that mas nakakita pa ang foreign audiences kaysa sa nato
Mm.
actually. And if you haven't gotten into it as much as you would like unta, it's really not your fault because the problem also is it's systemic. The problem is systemic. The problem is accessibility. The problem is the cinemas that refuse to give these local films chance because they prefer the foreign films where they make more money. Kay who owns the cinemas naman? Ang mga malls naman, di ba? And the only places gani here in Metro Manila where you can see these films, where you can access these films, is mga boutique cinemas, which we don't have pa sa Cebu. That's a problem.
Mm.
Like we have little here sa Quezon City. There's like mga gagmay nga boutique cinemas like Cinema 76, Cinema Centenario, which nasad ko kay mo close na siya because of the pandemic, no? But it was one of the boutique cinemas that people would go to if they wanted to see festival films, if they wanted to see regional films, gani even. Patay na Jesus been shown there, Bulalacao has been shown there. A lot of other films from other regions in other languages have been shown there as well. Kay mag-regular screenings man sila, mag-regular man sila nga mga season, mag-season sila ba, marag inana bitaw. But these are really, really small theaters. Like these are pila may seating capacity sa Cinema Centenario, mga kuan na siguro 50 people I think at most, or 50 or less. Nga na siya kagamya. So it's really not your fault if you can't access these things. And we should fight to be able to access these things more. Okay, this is our informal education man po. With regard to asa ka pwede makakita, if you download I Want, it's the app sa ABS mo tingalin. Sa ABS na siya nga ang app, and that's where all their teleseries, they put all their teleseries and their studio backed films. But if you look, if mangita lang jud ka, Dili Ingonato is there. Dam con Eleuteria is also there. These two are Cebuano films. Amo nakakita na ba kag Di Ingonato?
Dingonato,
Wala
I've
pa.
seen that.
Oo.
I've seen
Dam
Dingonato.
con
Damgunelo Terry, I haven't pag yun.
tanawa Dam con Eleuteria. This
Okay.
is really brilliant. Dam con ni Eleuteria was based on a short story that was written by Bambi Beltran. And when they shot it sa Ulango, usara gyud siya ka shot gikapoy Christian adto. Mara si
Yeah.
Christian may kam adto di ba? I bet
Yeah.
kasuryan siguro na ninyo. Nya kanang as nasayangan ko kay I wasn't part of it ba kay I had a day job sa call center patong nga time so mura. Pa ko ka film but anyway nalingaw kay ko ato pagtan-aw na ko to. See which one pa to. The very first nga nadaog sa Cinema One Originals is there also. Confessional. Confessional
Yeah.
is there. Yeah. So naay mga some dito. Bulalacao was also shown there for a limited amount of time. So sometimes you can access some of these mga India films there. So I Want, that's one place. Sa Netflix kay there are I haven't really seen a lot there yet. Kasagaran mga studio back films ang godoy, and honestly
Yeah.
dili kinako sila trip. Pero naa didtoy isuwat ni Juan Miguel Severo nga Hintayan ng Langit, which is nindot po siya. Okay siya sa Netflix kinay sa title. Okay ta din na, di ba? Balag Tagalog siya.
Yeah.
Born Beautiful is also there. I'm sure after you watch it, I'm sure you might have some thoughts about it. I do too. But that's only because this was originally written as a series man gyud siya, and then they re-edited movie version that they put on Netflix. Wala pa ko kakita sa series. Unfortunately, kay it's on Signal. Wala ko TV. What else?
I think you're also
pangitaan lang din sa Netflix.
I think you're overestimating my ability to tell if it's good or not. Like, I just watch it and we're like, okay, kanya naman. No?
Siguro magkuantan no si tawag ani. I really should also kind of binge some of the films. Kaya what we do sometimes is naami ka ng sige, let's watch a bad film kanang kay ganahan ni mga tawa or inana ba. But sometimes, because what we thought was a bad film actually turned out to be good. Kana mga inana nga mga mga inana nga tripping ba dito sa I Want, kung mag-scroll lang ka, nya abi nimo bati siya, nya mo click ko. Sige nya, ready to laugh na kay ko, kadugayon kay hala nindot lagi na ito. Wala ko na expect. So lingaw po siya nga, medyo lingaw po siya nga exercise gamay. Download I Want kana nya pangukay dito na mga classics po dito actually nga murag nindot tan-awon. I'm not sure if naabay subtitles ang I want murag naay
Well, like
subtitles. So okay.
I think at this point I can get by. Murag
Oo.
tinali makaya, especially if like let's say my wife is beside
Mm.
me, murag pwede ako rin na
Oo.
i-pause niya, munguta na lang ko niya.
Oo.
Kunya
Oo.
at least murag whether no? Yeah, but like
Ana.
kana like yeah, so like, I want no, so murag that there's a
Oo.
bunch there. Cause the ones like the
Mm.
Cebuano stuff that you've mentioned, I'm actually familiar with.
Oo.
It's like the other like indie like the Manila ones that I'm
Oo.
not familiar with at all also, no.
Oo.
But of course even the
Yeah.
Cebuano ones I haven't seen all of them, like Miss Bulalacao I haven't seen,
Yeah.
no.
But unfortunately po, we don't have a lot of Cebuano films just yet. We so far have films nilang Remton, sila Ara, sila Victor, silang Christian. Super Psycho Cebu is on YouTube.
Oh yeah,
Tapos
yeah,
ang
I've seen,
Christian,
well,
oo, kana. Oh
I've
well,
seen
of
that,
course
yeah.
we've seen that. Of course we've seen that.
Yeah,
But for those who are watching, kung wala pa mo nakakita og Super Psycho Cebu, tanawa na ninyo. Lingaw you can siya. Ana
yeah, that's
siya.
a really good
Pero
one.
yeah. Pero wala gito siya. We don't have enough Cebuano films just yet. It's still the same batch of people who are making films and new stuff.
and e-
But
and
there are other films in other regions pa yeah, which
and
is ako po
everybody
wala pa ko
who's
kita.
yeah, but like also all of the movies that you mentioned, almost everybody associated with those movies have moved to Manila and
Mm,
are basically in the industry, no? Diba?
yeah. Yeah.
Can you tell me about your move to Manila? I'm just curious. Like, what compelled you? What made you finally decide when?
Funny kay to kalit kaayo to. As in grabe to kakalit. I think if I remember correctly, they were trying to fly me in for a promotional event for Patay na si Jesus. And then they asked me, okay, Chai, here we're gonna buy you a ticket for this date. When do you want your return ticket? And then I said, one way lang. Yan na lang kung kalit ba, one way lang. And but I was already staying bunking with at the house of a friend of ours here sa Makati temporarily because there was another project that I was doing, which was Espeto. Um, so actually I already have a lot of my stuff, some of my stuff na there ing anak bitaw, pero dili pa gito siya full nga move kay I was still paying rent diri sa diha sa Cebu. So niuli ko and then ko nga I need to go home for July because nasunod mo ko sa Vispap adto and then I had to be there for Vispap. And then pero wala pa ko ka fully decide if I was gonna come back here and stay here for good. No, murag kanang mo na to na siya nga ko nga sige one way lang na siya. And then all of a sudden I only had 1 month to prep. I only had 1 month to kind of re-register my BIRs para ma-register siya diri sa QC and all of that, and then pack my boxes, pack my entire life in boxes and store them somewhere. And then I remember the day that I rode that flight on the way here na kay murakog na ambot mo ako nagpanic attack very light kay I realized nga that was the last time I was gonna cross Mactan Bridge as a resident of Cebu City. Kaya na siya murag lumubalin ako Manila niya. In denial pa jud kay ko adto. Grabe kay ko in denial adto kay nga. Sige lang basta kanang magka-project na ko kay mag-schedule ra gyud ko uli-uli lagi frequent visits ba. Unya ging ang nahitabo lisod man murag isa siya ka production number kanunay if you have to go from one city between one city to another, it's always one big production number and it takes up so much of your energy. Like Quezon City is 500 kilometers away from Quezon City alone. Kana pa lang daan kapoy na kay siya. How much more
Oh,
like
yeah,
you go
that's
to the
far from
airport?
the airport.
Yeah, let's just how much
Yeah,
you
like
go to the airport pa, 'di ba? So
Manila
murag
is a totally different animal to live in. Grubby.
yeah, it's a
Like
it's a
moving from city to
monster.
city is not a good idea.
Yeah, which funnily, I have ko ka-realize eventually nga nung kusog kayo mo ingon og I miss you ang mga taga Manila niya. Ako mga sentimental pag kayo nila oy. Nga kagets nako kay halos di sila magkita diri. I miss you, I miss you, I miss you. Yan I mean sa Cebu kay murag it's usa ra ka tumbling, magkita na mo dito sa inyong tambayan, di ba? Do mag-inom taron o sige, masakay og jeep. And then you're there. Like and I was wondering, I was really really wondering in the beginning why people from Metro Manila, if people from Metro Manila were just like sentimental like that, or they're just a little more emotional like that. No, because lisod kaayo makikita og mga tao, and you actually really do miss people because it's just there, you're so near yet so far, mga kind of thing. So,
I think that's like
mo
I
na siya.
remember thinking that also like when watching like the audiences in Manila, like when they watch
Mm-mm,
a gig, yeah,
mm-mm,
since kanang here like you watch a gig, it's like asa man taron? Ah, sige, tanaw ta gig.
mm,
Like dali na kay ba?
uh,
Yeah, there,
uh,
kay murag it really is like all right, guys, we're meeting at this time. We're gonna
uh,
meet here. We're gonna go there together.
right.
And then like it's like a you're right. It's like a production number. So in a way, they enjoy it more. No, kay
Yes.
it's harder to do. No,
Yes. And Rashag,
which is
I
a good thing,
deserve
by
to
the way.
enjoy this concert like extra hard because it took so much for me to get here. So I guess, yeah, I guess that the difficulty in transportation also contributes to why they're more appreciative of the stuff that they watch or the concerts that they go to, the gigs that they go to. Diba? Parang, la, lingaw na nga observation da. Ganahan na pud ko.
Ito.
Well,
How
Manila does
long have
teach
you
you some
been
stuff.
there? Oh yeah, for
Um,
sure. How long have you been?
I moved here August of 2017. So 2017, 18, tulon. Oh my God, tulon ako katuig diri. 3 years naman dai ko diri.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like 3 years though. It feels like murag last year ako ni balhin because I still don't feel like kanang bitong um lisod kaayo mo feel like kanang taga diri nako. Whereas katong sis, because I'm not originally from Cebu, I was born and I grew up in Cagayan de
Mhm.
Oro, but I attended college diha na sa Cebu and I've lived there ever since. As in, wala jud ko nihawa. Um, and it was very easy to kind of transition into this feeling of I live here now. This is my community. You know, I belong here. I found my friends and I found my tribe. But here, it's kind of I don't know if it's only because I'm older now, but it hasn't felt like makaingon jud ko nga taga diri nako. Kana ina na ba? Pero my tin is registered here for sure. I my bank account, may pay my bills here, my taxes go to the city na, but I'm still not from here. I'm still from Cebu. Murag mo gyapon feeling. And I asked Victor that one time, like, do you feel you're from here now? Do you feel how long did it take you to adjust since you moved here? And then and as Victor said something like, never. Kita siya ka-adjust it completely. But it still kind of feels like an some sort of outsider in a way, I guess. And especially sa kanang creative nga mga fields like well, especially sa film. Okay, you know, all the storytelling in this world of cinema has mostly been one way. It's mostly been just Metro Manila telling the rest of the country stories written in
Mm.
Tagalog. You know, the kind of dili siya, well, there's no exchange of stories you kayo ba, it's mostly like that. So ikaw as a Cebuano, when you come here, it feels like everything that I grew up with nga kanang I grew up watching seeing stories that I can't relate to because this is not my culture. Mura siya na in your face siya sa ako aba nga murag okay, dili ni siya ako ang pamaagi, dili ni siya wala hangtod karon wala gyud ko kumaanad. Like a lot of people have seen the stuff that I've done with Sweet Potato Sauce, for example, and then they just automatically assume nga, oh, funny to si Chai, funny di si Chai. Di man ko funny, pero I'm not funny in Tagalog. I'm funny in Cebuano. I can be funny in Cebuano, but I'm not funny in Tagalog. So murag, and then I can see their kanang murag gamay nga disappointment sa ilang mata ba when they find out that I'm not that funny while I'm speaking in Tagalog, and then they go kanang, oh, kanang dili lagi, there's this language thing, okay? Ang humor namo is very specific also to the language that we grew up with, that we speak on the daily dito sa Amua. Whereas sa inyo ha, dili ko familiar sa nuances. I can speak conversational Tagalog, pero dili ko familiar sa kanang mga cultural gid mga nuances gid that are specific to to Filipino or Metro Manila culture. So that's why I still can't be funny in your language, di ba? So it still kind of feels like di ko taga diri. Really. Mura ko dayo, I think dayo ko forever diri. Inana siya. Tabiana na
Yeah,
ko ni.
like comedy especially, like it's a lot about nuances, it's a lot about kanang that's why like kanang and language, like kanang language good is the big thing, no? Kana
Mm-mm.
yeah, I can't. So like when you do work there, kanang what are
Um,
you yeah, like well, how are you like I don't okay, I also don't know anything about that industry. So
uh,
is there a way that you like how do you get parts? How does it work? No?
kwan. Well, right now I'm self-managed. Uh, but because I have a number of people that I already know, they yeah, they just kind of inquire, nga, do you want to audition for this or are you free for this project? Yung ana siya. But used to be when I had a manager, sila mo yung mangita, sila mo yung murag ko nila ibaligya ba kumbaga inana bitaw.
Mm.
Oh, this is talent to try nga. And that's kind of how I got into some of the projects that I got into. Lisod kaayo, ang pinakalisod nga part of this of working here is that as somebody who doesn't have that big a name and dili nga nakadaka nga influence, murag I don't have the luxury kayo of choosing the projects that I can work on. Um, dili siya unsay tawag ani it's not like the others nga murag pwede ra sila di ko ganahan ang role kini ganahan ko ni nga role kini di ko ganahan ni nga role because a lot of the time like I need work di ba kinahanglan ko mo trabaho so sometimes dawat ko kanang mga roles nga medyo saputon ko inana pero but because I got those I got some really bad roles that I really didn't like. Eventually I learned to be kanang mas unsay tawag gani mas firm na ko sa akong non-negotiables like I have non-negotiables now because of the bad roles that I got before and yes I will mudawat kong trabaho bisag unsa ka gamya pero if for example maka-insulto na siya sa akong culture that I come
Mm.
from if this is another story that's gonna laugh at my Cebuano that yeah that's going to laugh at my Cebuano accent I'm gonna turn that down if it's another Yaya role that just because I'm Cebuana, I'm gonna turn that down. Which I this year, kabalutan nga lisod kayo ang pandemic karon pero this year na ako na turn down nga project nga ing ana specifically because of those reasons. Kay di na jud ko ganahan mo murag wala na gaya kwarta mo let go pag kita sa tong dignidad parang di na ko ganahan na again, di ba? Lisod na kana siya. So more na siya when that's the challenge when picking um roles really mostly really it depends on who you know good who you know who might have projects that you can audition for kana not so much nga who you know and then isulod na ka diretso dili siya na
You still
um
have to prove your worth, no, of course.
yeah yan na and dili okay ako kuan man ko murag um normal man sa ako ang auditions because I've had some theater experience before nga audition jud ka kinala jud ka mo audition kay na may some actors nga murag ay ayoko mag-audition offer ni na dapat yan sa akin murag ginana girl mag-audition ta girl kinala ta mag-audition girl di pa importante na sa tong trabaho murag ginana so gana ana ra ko mangitag trabaho ging
Or like are there like other opportunities also for like do you write ba? I mean, but there's a whole bunch of other things you can do in that
yeah
industry.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there are some actors who are also writers, who have moved on to become directors or assistant directors. Like si Alwin Uitingko, who I worked with sa Asuwang. Like I don't know if
Mhm.
you guys di makikita ingon makadikatig tanaw kayo mga Filipino nga films no. Pero if makakita kaniya, I'm sure murag familiar siya. He has now moved on to producing stuff. Really, murag siya producer and I think I don't know if he's venturing into directing na also, pero he produces materials and he works in advertising. Like a lot of the film directors here are also directors sa advertising a world as their sort of bread and butter ba. Um, there are some actors nga musuwat. Ako, I'm trying to learn how to write screenplays. Ako, I write songs. I write short fiction. I also write a little bit of poetry, but I don't know how to write screenplays. Muna siya kong problema. Dili ko kibaw mo write for TV or for film. I just have ideas, which if I turn them into short fiction, I might be able to do that. But to turn them into film, murag lahi po na siya nga mga ball game. So, kana, nangita ko person pa nga mo tudlo na kana ba, or somebody I can work with to do that with me.
Before the pandemic, there must have been. Well, so the thing is, right now, because of the pandemic, I know it's
Yeah.
kind of hard just to like see people. you know, like you have to
Yeah.
make a yeah, you have to make a real effort because you're
Yeah.
like, okay, let's have a Zoom call, you can't just
Oo.
like you know. But I wonder before, was there like like we just talked about a whole bunch of people from Cebu who moved to Manila. Like, is
Mm-mm.
there are there like regular gatherings or a community that has formed and like
I don't know lang. Basig naa, unya, wala lang jud ko kahibaw. Because I'm usually just holed up in the house. If naa man gani. But so far, sa akong mga amigo dinhi nga who are from Cebu or who are from other parts of the Visayas, the first people that I ever really became friends with, actually, that I ever really became close with, who are still my friends up until now, are not people who were born and raised here. Like, they were acquaintances. They were acquaintances from Cebu, either that or Bisaya pud sila, unya nakadungog sila nga Cebuano kunya bago kong balhin dinhi. And then we had a common friend. Kanang inana ba murag, uy Bisaya, murag na inday ang mga Bisaya dira na mo radar ba. Nay bisag
oh yeah.
bisag kanang tigbaligya, kanang bisag tigbaligya sa kanang unsay tawag ani sa kanang gulay kay namay moagi diri nga siya kariton niya magbaligya siya gulay mo siya roving gulay center or something ba niya na palit may carrots palit mig patatas nakabantay ko sa accent ba kuan basig Bisaya gani ni. So akong gituyo nga nagbisaya ako sa akong partner kay akong my boyfriend, he grew up here pero he already understands Cebuano kaya ako siya gituduan. And also kay writer man siya, so he has a one for languages pod as well, so that's why he's also interested. So ako siya bisayaon ko pila mga kabuk patatas sa paliton yan ara ko yan tutong manang ay bisaya day kaday kuan na day sige day kada pila ra ka kilo day 1/4 day wala na bisaya na mi kaya nang
Oh.
ing ana murag so far muna siya pinaka I guess matawag nako nga community nako diri mga displaced ng mga Bisaya mga people who are also kind of still figuring out what this whole place really is about also. And di jud may
Yeah,
mahutdan gid
like
og storya gid about complaints complaints or mga night basta about cultural stuff, cultural checka.
yeah, like I went to school there for 4 years.
Oo. Oh, okay,
And
okay. Asa ka nagpila?
and Ateneo. And then
Okay.
ako mga kaila are all from the dorm. Kanang mga dormmate
No.
rin ako, mga Bisaya or
Oh,
Mitanda or kanang
oh.
mga taga probinsya ba.
Oh, yes,
And
yes, yes.
yeah, it was yeah, Alexis back then, my forget it, my Tagalog kay wala gyud. Yeah, and then I remember you try to talk to somebody ba and then you tell them, "Oh, I'm from Cebu. I don't really know how to speak Tagalog." And
Oo.
then I don't blame them because
Oo.
their English is probably not that good also. So
Oo.
they were like, oh, okay, then what's maglisten na sila like effort ba? Like it's hard to, you know, it's hard.
Yeah, yeah.
It's hard. It's just hard. Like if somebody talked to me in a different language and I knew a little bit,
Oo.
listen good. Like effort kayo. So
That's
I
true.
can't really blame them. So a lot of my friends were really mga taga probinsya. no?
Oo, kana
And
oo, mga Hiligay nun, mga taga Leyte, mga kanang well, these people who are also um similar og background ba. Pero even for people nga from the provincial areas nga sa Luzon, even if Tagalog
mm,
speaking sila or let's say sa Baguio, murag mas dali na ko sila makasinabot, mostly also because of the regional nga background bitaw. And na I shared experience as a regional person. So that's I guess the second nga mga group of people nga murag dali ra nako ma-storya apart from our mga fellow Bisaya from the Visayas and Mindanao. So muna siya. If naa man gani grupo dinhi basig wala lang ko naka-encounter nila kay kanunay ra kong nasbalay. Or if wala ko sa balay kaya ako shoot, murag inana siya. So
yeah,
ganon.
okay.
Ay, naman siguro. I don't know.
Maybe there should be more of an effort for kanang, that community to somehow uh reach out to each other. Kay I mean, like, I'm sure, like, especially now nga, everybody is feeling some sort of disconnection with the rest of the
Mm-mm.
world ba, no?
Right.
like
Right.
like I know, for me, honestly, like, for me, I've said this so many times in this podcast. For me, this podcast
Mm-mm.
really is just a reason to kanang reach out to people and just have
Oo.
regular conversations. Like, I have
Yeah.
forced myself to do this. Kunya, as a side effect, kanang a lot of my friends don't live in Cebu,
Mm-mm.
and this is the most I've talked to my really good friends, ako mga bandmates before, no?
Mm-mm.
And this is the most I've talked to them in years, no?
But
Just because we're talking.
surprisingly, surprisingly bitaw. Like for example, there's this group of poets that I was a part of diha sa Cebu, and we haven't ever since our friend died in 2016. Wala na siya napadayon nga grupo. And then all of a sudden this year the pandemic happens, and then we're online in this. It's just a private affair. We were all on in a Zoom call lang good, and then we did a poetry session nga private again after so many years. And then karon pa gid siya nahitabo nga kanang nagkalayo-layo naming tanan, which is strange. So after I think the last really bad poet session that we had was in 2016 pagkamatay ni Alex, no? But before
Alex
that, I think
Oconco.
I think the last one was 2013 patingali, 2014, 'di ba? Nga kanang get together gyud siya, and not because somebody was dead. So because of the pandemic, I don't know, we were again planning on doing it again maybe next month or unsa ba kung kano sa libre ang mga tao, but we were able to do it again. Weird siya. And also katong imong giingon nga podcasts are a nice way to kind of have conversation with a lot of people. I've been guesting on podcasts for this last month. I think nakaduha na ko, and I think I still have two more coming up. And malingaw
Hmm.
ko og storya sa mga tao kay all of a sudden I met new people. I'm
Yeah,
I'm meeting new people. There's this one horror podcast that's talking
I
about mga
listened to
horror
that one.
films lang. Yeah, mga horror films ba niya mga wala sige ra mig pangatawan. Apparently
You're
the
talking about Shake, Rattle, and Roll.
ang
Yeah.
undin. Kabuya lagi tong undin. Sige ko katawa pag tanaw na ko to. Si Chris Costello di ayos from Cagayan de Oro. True pud siyang Bisaya. So na happy ko, di ba? Iyang wife is Bisaya pud. So like after the entire podcast kinag hi siya sa camera. So yun, the first time I met all of those people. Um what else? What other podcasts have I been in? Mga webinar, mga art um uh talks about comedy, talks about art, etc., mental health, la la la. I mean, I guess it's these other podcasters, they just really wanted either content or they thought that it would help people, but really also ultimately it's like a good way for everybody to maintain some sort of connection that was lost because of the pandemic kay makabuang away kasturya pod. Sige ra kog storya sa akong uyab sa akong iring diri, di ba? So lisod na siya.
Yeah, like I think it's like so like obviously there's a lot of bad things that happened because of the pandemic, no?
Mm-mm.
Kanang daghan
Yeah.
jud kayo. But
Yeah.
there are little bright spots that have come out of it. And
Mm-mm.
kanang if I think the challenge is like kanang as we keep moving forward is to somehow just keep doing, you know, those bright spots thing.
Mm-mm.
That's a really bad way of explaining it. I hope you understand. But like kanang,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, but gets ko,
kanang like
gets ko. Oo.
yeah, like there's something good out of it if we just continue to do it. But like me, I plan to just have I have like the smallest thing of just having regular conversations with my
Mm-mm.
friends. No,
Mm-mm.
I plan to just do it regularly na lang yun. Like it is the best part probably of my month in a way ng work. I just get to talk to my friends and there's no
Yeah.
agenda. Like
Oo.
sometimes it's broadcast live, sometimes it isn't. Okay, you know, when
Oo.
it's broadcast live, people are holding back a little bit.
Right.
No?
Right.
But like
Actually.
but yeah, but like when it but you know, but the point is like we get together and we just hang out, but you know, we're all like one of them's there in Manila, other one's in New Zealand, the other one in
Mm-mm.
the US. Yeah, just
Mm-mm.
and it's made this whole situation feel a little more sane. No?
Bearable siya. May mo siyang bearable. Nagay ano hindi kito because you mentioned magod ka ng magtambay lang or wala gani agenda ang topic. So si Gary Granada, si Cookie Chua, si Bayang Barrios, ug si Dong Abay. I think they do this every Friday. I don't know if you've seen one of their mga FB live nila. They just come together every Friday. Magdawat to sila mga request sa mga tao. Nya magkanta-kanta ra sila while nag-inom. As in lingaw kaayo sila. Unya kana pa yung klaro pa yung kay nga tambay mga kini si Manunggari pod bugal-bugal pod kaayo. Like right in the middle of the song, nagkanta na siya. Unya and then all of a sudden he remembers something. Na 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 na. Ay, Cookie, natatandaan mo yun? Wala. Makat na po yung song. Makat yung song in the middle of the song. Kaya na siya chika kang Cookie Chua. Magchika na sila. Chika na sila.
Mm.
Ni abadlungon din siya ni Bayang Barrios. Huy, Gary, yung kanta mo. Tiwasan na ni mong kanta. Saya, tiwasan na ni mong kanta. Human na mong kanta. Ay, asa na ta ito? Chorus. Chorus na ta. Dara! Ada na dyan siya ka-informal. And then there was this one time nga nakita na we caught them doing that one episode. And because lingaw kaayo sila, nga mura ra gid sila kanang nagtambay ra gid sila ba ang ending na malit mig beer kay nagdungan mig inom while they were doing that. And
Mm.
it's a very simple thing, but it was such a fun exercise. And mura siya, and like you said ganina, it helps keep everyone sane. It helps keep things bearable. Kay it does take this entire thing has taken a toll on everybody's mental health. Diba? And that's also one thing. If you want to survive this, you have to also make sure that you're sane. Bitaw. So it's such a small thing, pero dako na kay siyang epekto, 'di ba? Nga
Yeah.
to just keep connecting. So kaget ko sa mga bright spots pod. Kaget ako sa mga bright spots nga because going back also to the stuff that I've read before about the pandemic, it reveals this pandemic has revealed the flaws sa in the way that we have been doing things. Like for example, pwede ra man ang work from home. Pwede man ang work from home nga setup. So when this pandemic is done, maybe some businesses are going to shift na into kanang maybe pwede ra man siguro dili na to sige i-require ang atong mga workers nga mo come to work if it's going to be the same ang productivity nila if mag-work sila from home. Murag ina na siya na may mga paagi na there are ways to like time in time out kung mag-work from home ka ina na
There's so many
also
like
can
kanang
yeah
like education. Like you see
mm,
like I'm a parent, so that's like in my
Oo.
radar. So like
Yeah.
kanang
Yeah.
you see, I have like friends who are parents, and then they're complaining that they have to sit with their kid for
Oo.
5 to 6 hours a day. So the
Oo.
kids in front of a screen listening to
Mm.
a teacher. So it's like they brought the classroom to the
Mm.
house. There was no change whatsoever in how they were taught. It was just
Mm.
like, okay, since they can't be in the classroom physically, let's just put them in front of a screen with a teacher. So the teacher's like teaching 50 people na on a little screen, and they expect this whatever year old,
Oo.
like I remember what it was like being a teenager. I could barely stay inside that classroom. Well, yeah, I
True.
can't expect stare at a screen for 5 to 6 hours. There's no
True.
way.
True. And there's it reveals so much about how our education system has not been very engaging towards the kids. Now the parents are complaining that they're sitting for 5 hours in that kind of setup, and they themselves are getting bored. How much more pakaha ang bata, di ba?
Oh yeah,
And because the
yeah.
kid
No,
is bored,
uh,
because the kid is bored, are we assured nga na-absorb niya ang the stuff that they're supposed to learn? 'Di ba? Murag, first and foremost, bata ba yan na atong kastorya? Bata ba ito kastorya? So we wanna make sure that their learning process is also kanang enjoyable ba? What do you want to learn today? Unsa may ganahan nimo? So it reveals so many flaws about how people have still been doing the been sana how people have been running um the education system na klaro ng katag. So that's one thing also. Nga na, apart
yeah,
from the stuff that we talked about, like, oh, pwede naman dito mag-zoom tambay. Uy, kay dugay na tawa nagkita. Okay, those are, so gets sa mga bright spots. Gets sa mga bright spots. Not to shit on the bad stuff that's been happening. It's that's not the point of pointing out the bright spots. It's just that they also, it so happened nga nahitabo pod ang mga nindot nga stuff, because as humans mo cope man ta, ngita man ta solusyon.
yeah. Well, there's that's also I find it very Filipino to that. I find it very Filipino that when there are, as you said, like shitty things in the world,
Oo.
we've
Oo.
just decided to somehow cope with it. No,
Oo.
like murag, like what's happening right now, like
Oo.
nay bagyo. Yeah, what is it? Like there's
Oo.
like floods in Marikina or something,
Kaayo, oo.
and then
Yeah.
they're probably just gonna be like, well, this happens every 2 or 3 or 4 years. Mo magyud
Mm.
ni, mo naman ni atong kinabuhi, and
Yeah.
we're gonna figure it out. But like, there's something, but like, it's not exactly a good thing, you know?
Yeah.
Eh,
Yeah.
diba? So
It
one of the things that I wanted to ask you was, kanang, like, you've been actually like on social media, you're quite vocal, no?
uh
Like more vocal than the normal. Well, more like you're vocal, but so a lot of people are vocal, right? Kanang they
mm.
voice out their concerns, their displeasure, whatever.
Oo.
But you know, no one sees that. They're not a
Okay.
public
Yeah.
figure, no?
Yeah.
And and you are. So it
Oh.
actually uh when you do something, to some degree it spreads a little further, but it also has effect on your on 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 you
Mm.
mismo,
Yeah.
on
Mm.
no, do you have any thoughts about that?
Well, I've in my first 2 years here, I've been surrounded by people who've just been telling me to keep down, keep it down, because and this ties in a lot to the kanang the bright spots that we're talking about. I'll take the point home later. Pero, but again, in the first 2 years, I've been told a lot, I've been warned a lot to like keep it down, kay ingana, mahadlok na kita nga, walay mo duol nga kanang, walay mo duol nga brand, nga magpa-endorse sa imuha, tungod kay naa kay you're this outspoken person. And then, naamagod ko'y belief ako is, ang akong belief is, ang artist gani ka, di ba? So, you use your voice, what feeds your art? It's your experience of life. It's how you observe what's going on, how you observe people, and uh, so you will always have a world view also as a person, as a citizen, and that ties very much into your being an artist. Murag dili raman good dekorasyon ang artist in general nga pagbuhat lang love songs din ha. Pagbuhat lang og kanang pagbuhat lang mga happy nga mga palamuti din ha pang dekorasyon sa atong mga life, no? That's a very vapid person that you want me to turn into a vapid person. Is that what you're saying? But again, and I really refuse that. I refuse to believe nga ang artist walay opinion. Na agi na siya opinion, and na I right mo ingon ang mo express ang artist niyang opinion, because like everybody else, working man pud nga mga tao. We are working, nagbayad po ta sa itong mga taxes, nagbayad po ta sa itong mga bills, we are very much part of the system. Kung kinsay liderato din ha, apil ta affected ta, dili ta murag, okay, we're not exempt from whatever's happening to the next person here in this country. And this was also murag nabasahan po din ako kay one of my favorite actors, si Irfan Khan, God rest his soul. Also expressed the same thing in an article that I read about him. He said that the artist is a citizen first and foremost also. Yes, ganahan ako may mong Irfan Khan. So muna siya, sige istorya, and then the pandemic happened, di ba? And then all of a sudden, ABS-CBN got closed down. Artists started speaking up, started finding their voice ba, and to speak up. There are these bigger names now that are, mura sila, bahala mo diha, magstorya na ko. I've been keeping quiet for so many years because I've been told to shut up. And now I'm speaking up now. And now they've been empowered. Now they're talking. And there's a shift happening, actually. There's a shift happening within the film TV world, where people kind of don't want to work with you if you are of a certain political affiliation. Kibaw na tag unsa. Okay ra ba ta mo mention na din sa imong podcasting?
Yeah, we can do whatever you want.
Okay, so
I literally do not care.
Okay. So far sa ako nadunggan ha. So far lang ni sa ako nadunggan pod. Pero there's this talk nga murag ang mga tao are generally not inclined to work with you if DDS ka. So that's the kind of shift that's kind of happening now within the industry, because people are starting to talk. People are beginning to find their voice. People are beginning to not care anymore about unsa may image pa nga akong i-care about nga nagkandalitsi-litsi naman atong country, Ginoo ko, murag wala na feeling sa mga tao ba. So again, that's one of the, I think, the bright spots that we were talking about ganina. I guess I could include that in that category, people beginning to speak up. So ako murag di na pud ko mahadlok ron, actually, kay compared pud aning the people who just some of the personalities who have just become empowered enough to be able to speak out finally. Mas dagko maganing mga ngalan, di ba? They have more to lose than me, really. So, okay, go guys. Let's all participate in the national conversation also. And actors are coming together also, because actors are coming together, making groups to grow, not just for creative purposes and creative for the sake of kanang work related reasons but it's also because this is a space for us to express our opinions as artists regarding what's happening with the country and unsay role na mo pod ana ba unsay pwede na mo i-contribute bitaw ani nga discussion. That's great. What else? Yeah,
I think
I think
like
yeah, I think that's
kanang
it. Mm-mm.
I think like that's why it's always surprised me. So uh I remember, so for some reason what came to mind, this might be totally
Uh,
out of your ball, out of your alley,
uh,
no, but what came to mind to me was like Michael Jordan. And
uh,
he famously in the 90s had nothing, no political affiliation, no
mm-mm,
like he did not voice out anything. Like
mm-mm,
even if there was something happening that was kanang uh uh what do you call this, oppressive to the black population, and didn't
mm-mm,
say anything. He had the opportunity to to show his to put his name behind somebody who was helping their uh the African American and no,
mm-mm,
and he didn't do it. That was in the
mm-mm,
90s, because that the whole thinking was, you know, if the whole thinking was they didn't want to alienate half the
mm-mm,
population, no.
mm-mm,
But if you look at it now, at least in basketball, in basketball, they are very opinionated. I don't know if you're a basketball fan. Like I'm not really a basketball fan. I
na
used to be,
yeah, oo.
but I used to be
Ako
a
no, ako
basketball
dili kayo.
fan.
Oo.
Okay, so anyway, sige, but I will run through it. But I used to be a basketball fan, but now, if you watch a basketball game, they have the words Black Lives Matter on
Oo,
the jersey. Every
oo,
jersey. Kanang something to that degree ba? Like kanang murag making a stand on something. And then
mm,
to the point where every player wears it. It's on the game, and
mm,
so at least in the NBA, which they are more kanang opinionated, good. There's one
mm.
I'm gonna just shout out Stevie 76 guy. He always comments about basketball. What's the name? But anyway, thank you Stevie for the comments. But like kana ba? So you see people of note
Mm,
who have shown who have shared their opinions, no?
mm.
I hear Stevie 76 said Jordan famously said Republicans buy sneakers too. I think that's a
Okay,
Jordan quote.
fair. Oo,
So kanang na ba? So but
oo,
now people are voicing out their opinions, and that was
mm,
interesting for me to hear nga unsa ni ba, like it's like that in Manila nga, like a lot of the artists in quote unquote show business nga
mm,
murag didn't really voice out, and now especially with I guess with what happened to ABS-CBN, kay a lot of these artists
yeah,
are really, I guess half of them
yeah,
are employed by ABS-CBN,
mm,
no?
mm, yeah.
And so wala na sa una. It wasn't like that before.
Not so no, not so much. Dili kayo. As I never really got into like learning about Philippine showbiz before. Like only it was only up until I moved here when I really got to kind of figure out who's who, and what it is that they think around here. Kay before that, wala kay ko basa po og showbiz nga mga balita. This was really not something that I was very keen on reading about, really. But just compared to pre-pandemic and now, before there was always this huge talk about like um um quiet lang ka para it's okay, it's best to stay safe, it's best to stay kanang because they're afraid like of losing, like let's say, the endorsements. They're afraid of like katong gingon ni katong kang Jordan nga quote sa nga that Stevie shared ganina nga Republicans buy
Stevie.
sneakers too. um it's it's very kapitalista kay nga panghuna-huna ba kumbaga nga the capitalist wants all the profit. Brag in ana. So let's not say anything that will lessen that market, that will cut that market in half. Balik, because that means we're gonna lose profits. And then so ang mga artists pud din for quite the longest time kay murag they also don't want to kind of lose the possibility of those endorsements. I guess it's just the difference between them and me is that I never really had those endorsements in the first place. Like, kinsa may magpa-endorse na kog whitening product diri nga brown makay ko, and proudly so. So, di ba?
What was that? I'm blanking. What was that commercial that you guys did? That really fun one,
Oh,
katong.
Pax Browning.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
Pax.
murag somebody like an ad stole it, right? Like almost.
Yeah. They didn't really
It's
steal it.
crazy.
They didn't really steal it, but claro kayo siya nga they were trying to kind of hijack the idea, because that was the like around the time ganing katag to nga fake ad na mo. Everybody knew it was a fake ad ba. So and it wasn't just us really. It was also this there was this Morena movement going on, Morena movement going on, which wasn't really it was empowering people who had more melanin. But it was also just love the skin you're in. Like we're all of mixed heritage in this country. A lot of us are puti na daan. There's a lot of us that are brown na daan, and really there's no need to change that. It's really part of our history pa. So murag ina na siya. And it was gaining traction. It was gaining momentum at nga time. And I heard gani nga there were some brands who were kind of threatened because this conversation was happening online. Um, Everywhere, not just here, actually also sa lain nga nasod, there were videos were coming up about colorism in India kanang inana it is kind of happening ba. So mura sila gana ang feeling nako gana na sila mubaws nga mura we want to take back that narrative. We don't want that narrative that we have profited from to change. So to kontra the morena or colorism nga awakening sa mga tao about it, mura gi-hijack nila ang among concept. And dili kami nakabantay adto, ang mga tao on Twitter ang
Mm.
nagtag na mo nga prag. Hala, di ba mura binigyan yung hangad, brag na bitaw. Then kami ni Samantha was like, hala bitaw no. Hala bitaw no. At ang mga tao pa may nakabantay actually. But anyway, asa na gito tong
Yeah,
story adto?
you know.
Oh. Oh
Oh,
no,
sorry,
no, sige sige
I was
pare.
just gonna comment on like kanang you're talking about like art and yeah, the artists are citizens too. But I think like
Oo.
good art is in a way kind of just mirrors uh murag, I was gonna say society, but not really. Kanang good art lets you see something differently that you've seen
Mm-mm.
all the time before, and kind of like lets you see a different perspective of it. So like for
Mm-mm.
example, like what you guys did, no, I mean, yeah, ever since I've been growing up, you've seen those really crazy, stupid ads of like
Mm-mm.
whitening, anana,
Mm-mm.
and
Mm-mm.
really, it was like kinda- it it's absurd in a way,
Oo.
but you never thought it was absurd because like you just saw it
Yeah.
over
Yeah.
and over and over and over again,
Right.
and and what you guys did was kind of like open the curtain and said kanang, yeah, this is kind of this is this is what they are doing, and we're just
Mm-mm.
flipping it
Oo.
and just using the same conversation except it's like a different skin color. Kaya na ba? And
Mm.
just
Oo,
look at
oo,
how
oo.
absurd this is. No?
Yes. Yes.
And
Oo.
in a way I think like good art and good artists are able to do that. No? Uh
Mm-mm.
so yeah, like unfortunately I'm very kanang western in terms of my kanang murag what I know ba. So like the ones that came to
Oo.
mind were kanang mga, what's his name, the guy who did Obey.
Which one? Kinsa
I'm
na?
blanking. He did like Obama's drawing, no? Katong he did
Murag wala ko
Obama
ka-encounter
thing.
ana. Wala ko
Yeah, well,
ka-encounter.
anyway,
Wala ko ka-encounter.
yeah, basta kanang he did this Obey thing, and yeah, murag for some
Oo.
reason it caught traction because it just showed a different
Ah,
side of society. And yeah, ba? And
okay.
I think like good art and good artists are able to do that. And what happens is when you do stuff like that is that kanang people latch on to it. Like same thing what
Mm.
happened to you guys. Like kanang your the Sutukil, that commercial ana. Like people became fans of what you do because of that, and you can't deny that, ba? No,
Yeah, it takes it for things like these bitaw. It takes just one person. For example, kana nga issue no.
mm.
Um, there's always for certain issues that people start talking about. Eventually, there's always this just one person nga mo finally mo voice out ba mo ingon og ako gikapoy nako. Wala pa mo gikapoy. Bitaw, they just finally blurt it out. Just blurt out what they know nga everybody else is also feeling and thinking. It's just this one person or this one group ito nga I have something to say. Gikapoy na day ko, guys. Kamo, let's talk about this. Kaya ako gikapoy na ko. Gikapoy na jud. Um and that's also one way in which artists express their opinion. And like you said, exactly why people latch onto these things is because um relatable man siya nga experience, shared experience man siya sa mga tao, and finally they're allowed to say also nga ako pod I agree gikapoy na pud ko, and I really want to make fun of this because I've always felt like this has alienated me, and this is absolutely absolutely absurd. Now the problem with the way of thinking sa mga tao diri for a while is that don't artists are dapat dili they are not supposed to be political. Artists are not supposed to be political.
Which is not true. Which has
Dili
never
siya
been true.
yes, it's never true. Art is always what is personal is political. 'Di ba? Ang um when you tell a story about whatever's happening to, let's say, a person who happens to be urban poor, kana is that's already a commentary on that situation. That's already a kind of, if not a political statement, an observation on what's going on social culturally or social politically. So kuwang gamay sa edukasyon, I guess, ang mga tao who say nga artists cannot have opinions. Again, mabalik na punta sa education system diri sa Pilipinas nga murag dili ta tudluan og kanang critical thinking ba kasagaran. And so you have
Well,
people, yeah. It's very sad.
well, no, but like,
Sad siya.
also at the same time, the truth really is kanang a person is smart, but people are pretty dumb. Like kanang
Yeah.
like a group of people, you're gonna get a lot of them who just don't, you know, don't read,
Yeah.
uh, don't they have an opinion but don't know the facts. Kanang yan na ba?
Yeah.
And
Oo. Yeah.
unfortunately, the way the internet is designed, it kind of fosters that thinking. No,
Yeah.
yeah.
It has
I'm not sure
so
I wanna.
much
I'm
of.
not sure. I'm not sure I want to end on a downer. No, because we've been talking for about an hour 20,
Oh,
and
yeah,
no.
actually, unsa may happy na nga hitabo karong mga lisod pod ka lisod man kaayo oy, as in lisod jud kayo siya, not to be because it's so in our face magod ang mga nahitabo niya, napod yun ni agi nga bagyo bag-ulang, and then you know how deplorable the national government is when they respond to disasters, which is halos wala sila response. Or hinay kaayo, no? But yeah, how do we end on a damn? How do we end on a good note with everything that's been going on? Um,
To look at the bright spots of the
oh
pandemic.
yeah. Look at the bright spots of the pandemic. Conversations are happening, even if libog pa kayo siya. But like, okay, since we were talking about the internet and how the internet
Mm.
kind of fosters a very kanang a kind of thinking that nga dili mo prioritize og fact checking, dili mo verify ingana bitaw. Um if I'm going to be just hopeful about it, the internet is mura siya this huge thing that we humans are still trying to make sense of, and
Oh, for sure.
yeah, I'm kind of relying on our ability to self organize, because if I like for example sa Twitter, kung kanang when I look at the conversations on Twitter, makaingon ko nga wala dili bugo ang mga tao sa Twitter, in fairness. I mean, yeah, na mga toxic nga mga batasan didto, which is on every platform na amang gina siya. Pero if you look also at the conversations that are happening there, it is kind of kanang hopeful ba nga bisag ako malingaw na kung basag Twitter kay mas nakoy makatunan dito, um uh, with the thoughts that the people that I follow are sharing about what's happening in the country, what they think about certain issues, or bisag ang humor lang magani funny, lingaw ra pod ang Twitter humor itself. It's developing also on its own, so I am also learning stuff from there. But just I guess the general understanding lang sa mga tao, there are pockets of I'd like to believe, I'd kind of like to believe na there are pockets in the internet where ang pagsabot sa mga tao kay ning lambo, nagpalambo sila sa pagsabot sa pamatasan sa mga tao, sa pagsabot sa mga tao, sa ilang pagsabot sa mga panghitabo sa nasod kana. I'm really hoping that these small pockets also kind of spread, and these conversations, the better conversations spread bitaw eventually kay
Well, what
and which will eventually lead us to 2022 nga mamutar tang tanan. Mamutar na tang tanan, please. As in mo gina
well,
siya
I'm not
kana na
sure
lang
about. I'm a little bit pessimistic about
uh,
2022, but
but
no,
truly no truly
but
ako pod pero murag oh my God, wala, I don't know who's going to run yet. I mean, klaro naman siguro kinsa, pero kanang, if it will help ba, murag na ako dito sa if it will help, oh, mukuan ko, butar ko, kasi the last few elections, mura mo kung kanang disillusion, makikuan to, murag, bahala po di ay kanang, muna ako feeling ba, butar ko dito, pero I didn't really care, because I didn't believe in the system, I didn't believe in whoever was running at all. So karon, mura siya, if my vote can help, I'll figure that out later. But if my vote can help, I'm gonna go out and vote. Inana siya, I guess, is that's the most hopeful that I can get for today.
well, I'll give you
Kayo, no?
another. I'll give you another thing to be sort of hopeful about. So, like you were
Uh,
talking about the internet, no? If you think
uh,
about it, like I'm not sure exactly what date, but the internet was quote unquote born in like sometime in the mid 90s, whatever
uh,
it is, something like that.
uh,
So the internet is a 20-year-old, is in its mid 20s, right?
right,
And
right.
that's a very young person. I don't know how old you are. I won't ask, but like, you know, I was a schmuck at 20, like in my mid
uh,
20s. Like I didn't know anything. Like I
oh
still
yeah.
don't. Like
Uh,
you know, so
yeah.
and then you
Oh,
can and for sure all of the young people um growing up now, like they're gonna have their own issues for sure. Like they're gonna
mm-mm,
have their own like kind of issues that are like uh uh special to their generation, no? Like with this
mm-mm,
whole
mm-mm,
like the 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 echo chambers and everything
mm-mm.
of social media, but they are infinitely more infinitely smarter than me when
Oh
I
yes,
was
they are.
their age, for
Yes,
sure,
they
right?
are. Actually, yes,
Right?
they are. Oo, oo. I
Like
mean, katong lang daan mga katong sa just going back to the this katong unsa gitong nahitabo kang Trump gani nga there was this Trump was gonna do this rally and there were tickets whatever, and then it was the Gen Z kids who started
oh
buying
yeah.
the tickets until nahurot ang tickets, and then gamay ra ang turnout sa mga tao na dito sa murag
uh,
dang, I mean, kana na daan, ay, very good mga kids, kanindot ninyo, oy. Nindot ninyo. Diba? So, ako ma-agree ko na nga, they're ultimately, like, way smarter, um, at their
yeah.
age now than when I was their age. Like, a feeling na ko kay, wala, chud ko'y nahibaw-an jud ato. Sige na, kung kubog ato eh. Aw, oo, mo, ino magyapon ko karon. Pero like, wala chud ko'y, um, I don't. I wish I knew then what I know now, or at least began to understand things in the way that I do now ba unta, and then I probably would have become a, I don't know, better siguro kung a person karon if I knew more things. But then that makes me very proud of the kids now. Yes, I'm glad that you guys are have the kind of understanding that will help you a lot in the future, the kind of understanding that I didn't have when I was your age. And I'm glad about that. I'm glad that the younger ones are much smarter. That gives me hope for the future. Kay murag lisod pud kayo no kung mas bugo sila nato murag wala na mga extinct na tang tanan. Mga
Yeah,
extinct ang tanan kung
their issue, I think their issue is going to be, I mean, I could be speaking out of my ass, but like I think their issue would be like kanang like they have so much choice in front of them
Oo.
that they won't know what to do, and also at the same time they won't have the kanang it,
Decision
you know
paralysis
the
murag na.
yeah, or like the decision to put yourself out there also, like
Oo.
I think what happens is what you gain with age is that you just care less about what other
Yeah.
people think generally,
Yeah.
and when you growing up without social media, that comes up, you learn to care less about what other people think very early on in life. I
Mm-mm.
feel a lot earlier on than kanang the kids now, because the kids
Mm-mm.
now, like they have like they I really think some of them will struggle with that, like kind of acceptance through social media.
Mm-mm.
I don't know, kind of get, like equating likes
Yeah.
to self-worth, kind of that whole thing. So
Being that they are digital natives sila, that I think that's possible, but also there's also this other possibility nga I'm not sure if I remember this correctly, but I think I read something in the not in the recent past, like maybe a few years ago, about because there's so much digital stuff going on. Hi!
say
There's so
hi.
much digital stuff
Okay.
going on.
I'll, see, I told you this was gonna
Oh,
happen. I'll go there later.
it's
Okay, we're almost done.
hi, ka-cute. Uy, in town, buyag. Pila edad?
It's 5.
Ano, ko. Feeling ko, oh my God, very tiny human. Anyway, so where was I? Because there's so much digital stuff going on. What I'm seeing that's possibly mahitabo po is like they might reject it. Then there might be a huge chunk of them that might also kanang more reject sila ani ba because they grew up with so much of this social media and so much of this whatever, and eventually they'll grow up and they'll go, no, I want to go back to the old phones. I want to go back to the just the call and text because that's what really all that I need. That maybe a huge chunk of them are going to go, I find social media um ridiculous. Murag ingana ingana siguro ang na possibility nga ingana ang ilang turn out sila like that, and then they become more sensitive to in turn they become more sensitive to like the more important stuff, I guess.
That's
That's
probably
yeah.
possible. I don't know if
Yeah.
they will go the route of getting like a dumb phone, no, but
Uh-uh.
I think, but you've I don't know. Do you? I'm blanking on what it's called exactly. Katong
Mm-mm.
like the kids. So a lot of the kids they have like, let's say, Instagram, right? So they'll
Mm-mm.
have 2 Instagram accounts, no?
Mm-mm.
One Instagram account which is like basically a secret account, which
Yeah.
is like them and their like super close friends lang know about,
Mm-mm.
and they just
Mm-mm.
post whatever. And they have another one which is for the public, which is for like kanang, hey, I'm at the beach.
Aha, okay.
Kanang,
So
you know,
they're aware of I think so there's an awareness nga kanang none of this this is fun. We know that this is fun, but we know that none of this is true. So we're just really here to have fun. We're nasa laingan na nga kind of awareness, which is I think is good. And in a way, dili sila they don't fall under the illusion of kanang they don't fall under the illusions that a lot of the millennials were kind of victim to when Instagram started or Facebook started, when Twitter started and all of these social media platforms. Nasa na yan ng awareness. Okay, that's
Yeah, for
good.
sure.
Oh, and I think
I
we should,
hope. I mean,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Um, we've been going for 1 hour 30. The kid
I
is
know.
bugging me already. Uh, can't control them.
Sige
If
lang.
you could just like tie
Sige
a
lang.
leash on. Have you seen parents like they tie a leash on their kids so they can walk them in the
Olo,
mall?
koloy.
Like
Kaloy
na
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 na. Oy. Oh my
na na.
goodness, kaloy na na. Oy, kaluoy po sa parents. Ikapoy
Tuloy
na pugit
kayo.
siguro sila, no? Ikapoy na pugit siguro. Pero naluoy po
Oh
ko sa
yeah.
bata. Naluoy ko nila. Naluoy ko nilang duha. Kana. Ano?
Yeah. Kapoy
Oh
son.
my God. Oo. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can I can imagine.
There's
I mean, iring pa lang
there's a
ganidaan.
Louis CK bit. I mean Louis CK
Oo.
gi-cancel na siya sa culture, but he has like one of my favorite parent jokes nga murag
Oo.
kanang uh so before he was a I'm gonna butcher this, of course, but before he was a
Oo.
parent, he would see another parent like screaming at their kid, and he'd be like, "Oh, ayo pagingan na, oy, how can you
Mm.
scream at that little child?" And
Mm.
now that he's a parent, he looks at
Oh.
another parent. When another parent does that, he goes, "Oh, what did that kid do?" No, poor guy.
But I don't have a kid, no. But a lot of my friends have kids na. I have baby. Nakabibisit na ko sa uban. Inga na bitaw. And then I see nga kapoy siya. Kapoy di siya. I'm not sure kaya na nako myself actually. So murag man, panalo mo na kaya ninyo. I swear. But keep
It's not
on
that.
adja.
It's not. I mean, it's hard, but really, it's not that crazy. So,
Really.
Chai,
Oh,
since I cannot,
ayun na.
his mom must be sleeping now or something.
Oo.
What's the name? Is there anything that you want to talk about? Anything you want to plug?
Well, nothing that I can't plug just yet. I have a few upcoming projects, but I'm not sure if I can talk about them just yet. So far, wala ko i-plug, really. I have a blog. If you want to read
Yeah,
some of
where
my
can
creative
people find you on
nonfiction.
the internet?
Rabe, naa siya sa bio sa akong IG. Pangitaan na lang ko sa akong IG. Pangitaan na lang ko sa Instagram, and it's on my bio. And then if you click on that blog, if you go to that blog, I have a stories section. That's where I put all of my writing. I have creative nonfiction. I have poetry. I have like mga very short mga flash fiction pieces there that I put essays really
What's
mga inana.
What's your Instagram?
Try Fonacier. My Instagram is try
Okay.
Fonacier, and if people can still have the presence of, they still have the attention span to like take note of it. Ang akong WordPress is rabidchai.wordpress.com.
Okay,
Ayan.
and I'll make sure to link all of that in the show notes. I've read some of
Sige, sige.
your blog posts in preparation
Okay. Yeah.
of this.
Yeah. There's this.
Katong they're
There's
like,
the, there's this journal portion nga murag journal lang siya
yeah,
nga murag. It's just really to get the writing juices going. Pero ang uban dito katong mga I've recently just gotten back to writing in Cebuano, so those who might like reading Cebuano stuff, I have Cebuano stuff there. Lingaw kayo mo suwat gyud og Cebuano actually, I find. Lingaw kay
really.
pertigin ako lingawa, I swear. And I've also been reading a lot of kanang Cebuano stuff man pod lately. So anyway, before ta maabtan og siyam-siyam, mura to siya guys.
Sige, chat. Thank you so
Sige,
much
sige.
for
Salamat
doing this.
kaayo.
Sana nalingaw ba ako? No?
Oh, ako
All
po,
right.
doy salamat kayo. Dugay na beta nagiplano unta. Unya
Lagi?
wag yun mahinayon, 'di ba? Kay mo lagi to, mata na cafe ka pwede na ta mag-online. Ang plano ba nato is mo ato jud sa inyong opisina, 'di ba? So may rapod na dayon na finally in ani lingaw siya, lingaw kayo siya. Salamat kayo. Salamat jud
Okay.
kayo, Carl.
Sige. I'll end the broadcast.